Michelle, what do you think? Should we?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Let's call meeting to order right at 2 o'clock, June 3rd, of the Budget Advisory Committee. So we have the agenda. Ron, are we going to talk about that tax thing at all, or?
If you want to, I can go over it briefly.
Yeah, just give us the 5 minutes.
Do a roll call.
Or just roll call
Roll call. Chairman Cloy,
here.
Vice Chair Hales is on her way. Mr. Curris,
Here.
Ms. Hall is absent, and Mr. Bergman.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start off. Ron received some tax information. Could you give us a brief overview? I know that spreadsheet was this wide, and the bad news, I was looking at it on a PC instead of a good computer. So maybe you can give us the short of the,
Well, we received from the property appraiser the estimate of taxable values. It's an estimate, but it's a pretty good estimate right now, if they're sending it out. It was on May 28th. So he says, the property tax values, it's the main, revenue of the general fund, 37% of the revenues of the general fund. I budgeted, on a conservative 4.5% taxable value increase. It's come in at 6.92%, which is good.
good.
So what it means is right now I have, that 266,000 that we're short in the unassigned fund
We're
balance?
squeezing.
Now if I be a little conservative still and just say, okay, maybe, because really it's still an estimate, and really the official certified values come July 1st.
Right.
So even if I do 6.5% for right now, I'm saying it's another $203,000. So that 266,000, brings us down to about over 50,000 or so that we need to balance the general fund. And we found out our health insurance will probably come in less than the 8%.
I was
So
gonna ask
I got the feeling that 266,000 between the property tax values increasing over my estimate and the health insurance coming in less than my estimate of 8% increase, so we'll eliminate that using of the reserve on the unassigned fund balance.
Have we got confirmation yet on the health, or we're still waiting for that?
I had confirmation, but I was told to keep it in between, yes.
Okay.
It sounds like
That's
it's,
all-
it sounds like it's pretty firm.
Okay,
that
sounds pretty
There'll be
firm.
no increase in the health insurance. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Which would be another, in the general fund, $206,000, and the whole city savings of about a little $310,000. If there's, going from that 8% estimate on the health insurance to
Yes.
0. So that's
Okay.
good news, and
So we might even squeeze it down below that 263.
a little bit.
Thank you. That's good. That's good.
Don't go spending it, though, with
We do,
with
yeah,
these
I was
people
just
here,
ready to
yeah.
say, don't go spending it yet. Susan, just a quick update we have. It was good news from the tax
Right.
standpoint, and it appears strongly that the benefits, it appears that that
Stay
will.
the same rate.
Yep, we're good. Okay, we'll dive right into the agenda. Beautiful sunny day for budgeting. Procurement Services.
Good
Hi.
afternoon. I'll take this off so you can hear me better. Janina Lewis, the Procurement Services Director. Basically, our budget is the same from last year, minus maybe a couple $100. We're still budgeting for one computer replacement, and that's all my changes. Any questions?
Am I losing my mind? Did you present last year or?
No, I'm sorry. I'm new. I took over
Oh.
from Jay Jackus. He's
Okay.
retired. Nice to meet you all.
Hi.
The new Jay.
Yes, but J-A-N.
I-N-I.
There you go.
Okay. Let's get organized. So not much in the way of changes, huh?
No,
You make this very easy.
trying to. Keep it to my 10 minutes.
Let's just see.
And just so you know, Janina's department is one of the ones where, I think we mentioned last week, where the capitalization threshold used to be $1,000.
Then now it's
So that's why you see under the .52, the operating, we have the $3,000 for computers, where before that would be up in the capital part and stuff. So that's,
Was that an internal decision or the new auditing firm?
no, state statutes
State statute?
raise the threshold to $5,000 and
It
above.
was logical,
Yes.
5,000. Okay. Anybody, any questions? Don't. You may have set the all-time record.
I'll let Jay know. Okay,
Now,
Thank you.
don't spend any more than that.
we'll try not to.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Okay. Next up, Police Department. Chief Jeff, this is,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Everybody dry, I hope?
Now, maybe.
My
rough.
windshield started getting a few spiders. I ran underneath the overhang and then it opened up, so stayed dry. That was a good thing.
Streets are pretty rough right now.
First
They're-
big,
Yeah.
they're rough. We were all saying, if you told us you were delayed because of the rain.
Oh, yeah, I
we're
sent
on
Michelle
board.
an email, but
Okay, Chief, the floor is yours. Tell
Thank
us
you,
what
sir. Let me
you'd
get this
like.
PowerPoint up for you.
Where's it going to show? Up there? So, Chief, how's the new job going?
No,
You're
it's
fit-
going very well. You know,
You're fitting it
I have
well.
the greatest bunch of people working around me, and all I got to do is steer the ship in the right direction. And Chief Coaching set it up for success for me, so all is well.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
All right, there we go. All right, I'm Jeff Young. I'm the newly promoted Chief of Police for the City of Tarpon Springs Police Department. And it's my honor and privilege to work alongside the 53 sworn plus 23 non-sworn individuals. That includes part-time and full-time employees that we have, for a total of 76 employees at the police department. And I'm going to go through this budget here. We're looking at our mission statement on the first screen. You can go back one, Frank. You know, I'm not going to sit here and read through all these, but, you know, the most important thing is our mission statement has always been working with the community to solve problems and being partners with everybody. That's the only way you're really going to change the issues in town and stuff, is working together. Our vision, simply put, building a better future. And that was something that Mark LaCourse, when he was police chief, created a vision for our Cops and Kids program. I think it gives a great plan for us moving forward on where we want to be. And then the core values. Chief Cochin set these up with working with everybody in our department from the ground up: accountability, creativity, integrity, professionalism, and quality. And the most important thing is that we empower our officers to be able to deliver on these core values in order to achieve our mission and our vision. We're a fully accredited law enforcement agency through the CFA. We're actually going up for a reaccreditation here in December. Major Ruggiero has been a big part of our accreditation process. Now Sergeant Mathis has taken that over this year, and he'll lead us over the threshold this one again. And I do want to point out that I'll be going to an award for Major Ruggiero here in a couple weeks, where he's getting the Team Leader Award for accreditors for the state of Florida.
Excellent.
So it's quite a feather in our cap for the agency and the city as a whole.
Just curious, accreditation, is it a rigorous process or?
Beyond rigorous.
I've got the feeling.
Yes, yeah, people from other agencies come here and they crawl in and out of your files and examine everything and make sure not only you're saying what you're going to do, but you're actually doing what you say you're going to do.
Right.
So it's a complete transparency of the agency. And, you know, I welcome any of y'all to come. We'll have displays set up in December, and invite anybody to come and sit and take a view and see what the process is about.
Excellent.
Some of the highlights of our department, obviously we're a 24/7 service. We're a full-service department. We have our own crime scene technicians, property and evidence room, our fully functional dispatch center, our records division, K-9 unit, which is an award-winning K-9 unit, I would like to point out as well. Our investigative division, detectives, narcotics detectives worked in partnership on the county task force as well as the DEA task force. We average on average right around 33,000 calls for service per year. I think we had 33,195 last year. So that kind of gives you an overview of what we're dealing with on a daily basis out there. Some of the other highlights of our department, our SWAT team, which we do fund out of the forfeiture funds, which is money that we get from making arrests on drug dealers and users and stuff. In our partnership with the DEA, we'll get those funds, and that's what helps fund those instead of coming out of the general fund.
I'm just curious, refresh me. If there's $1,000 captured, how much do we?
Well, it all depends on what the workload of our detective that was out there was. Sometimes it'd be 1%, 3%, might even be up to 5 to 8%, depending on the workload that the individual detective has in the case. But on average, it's probably about around about 3%, I would say, on for most of the
That
majority
sounds
of the,
about correct,
the
yes.
cases that we bring forward. And again, those will come down the road. Some of those DAGs will sit there while they go through the court system for a while to make sure that everything was done properly, and then it'll come down to the various agencies. But it is a great tool for us in law enforcement to get equipment and needs and not be a burden on the taxpayers. It's going right back after the people that we're trying to put in jail and stop that illegal activity from. That's where we put that money back towards and programs that address those issues.
Good, thank you.
Our community policing efforts, like I said before, I think this is one of the things that we probably do better than most agencies. Our community engagement is widespread and it's department-wide. It's not an individual group or individual alone that would do it. Yes, we have a crime prevention officer. Yes, we have an officer at our Cops and Kids Center, but every officer from myself on down is encouraged and committed to community involvement and being engaged with the community. So you see a lot of our things that are done are stop, walk, and talk, getting out on foot. They'll have their read-offs downtown in a business or something like that just to be seen and pass on notes and stuff. So a lot of those types of things just to engage the community more. And social media platforms these days are definitely becoming a bigger issue with us too, so.
And you guys, you do it.
No,
You don't talk you walk the talk.
well, thank you, appreciate that. Our peace team, that goes right back to what we were just talking about, the community engagement. It's public engagement and community education. These are officers that will target specific areas. So if we're getting complaints about people running stop signs, we'll send a peace team. And the peace team officer is assigned to each squad, so they'll go out there and target those areas, whether it's, downtown merchants or seeing somebody, outside their business at night or something like that. So we'll target those types of things with the peace team, plus all the other patrol units. But the patrol units are often busy with calls for service, as I pointed out earlier, so. Our crime prevention program, if you don't know Tony Boone, I don't think you live in Tarpon Springs, because he's pretty much known by everybody in the city, it seems like, and he's very proactive out there and working together with the community partners, with our crime watch groups and our business crime watch groups. And I think those partnerships go a long, long way with developing the community engagement that we were talking about. Our going right back into this, the community officers in public schools, which is COPS program, that was actually started again under Mark LaCourse when he was the chief. Something I did my whole career going into the elementary school, and you adopt a class basically, and you go in and talk to the kids. Engaging the kids early on in life and getting them to understand and know and respect the police and know that they can approach us and talk to us about things is an important thing. COVID put a kibosh on all that. So we haven't been back in the classroom just yet. We'll get back in there. We'll probably look at kicking that back off again next school year. But it's definitely an important aspect of our jobs is getting it and building those relationships with the kids. Our SRO units, we have 6 SROs. There's 2 out at the high school, 1 at the middle school, and 1 at each of our 3 elementary schools. I'd like to point out too, this was something that came out of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, which requires all areas to have an officer, an SRO, or a school safety officer in every public school. We've been doing it all along. For many years, we've had an elementary school escrow. Now, at that time, we had one that went floating around to 3 elementary schools. We had one out at the middle school and one at the high school. We've increased our numbers and put one at each elementary school. We didn't want to opt into the security officer. We feel that the police officer in the schools early builds that relationship, again, that we discussed earlier. Our Cops and Kids program is probably the highlight and our flagship for our community policing programs. If none of you ever been over to the youth center, get with me. I'd love to take you over there and take you on a tour of it and show you firsthand what the actual Cops and Kids Center is all about. And I can't say enough about it. Our partnerships with the Housing Authority, Robin Redd, the director of the Housing Authority, oversees the youth center for us, and then our partnerships with the JWB in the state of Florida and juvenile justice. We get our grant money through them. That's what fully funds the program. We do a budget items for things that we do out at the youth center daily. You know, we provide meals out there for the kids after school. These are kids that, if we didn't have the youth center there for them, they're not going to go home and have a meal. They're not going to go home and have accessibility to a computer or anything of that nature. We have workstations in there. We have staff over there at the youth center that are just incredible and helping these kids be successful in life. As a matter of fact, a lot of them come back after the fact. I see them years later, hug, you know, thanking us for us. One of our sergeants is a product of our Cops and Kids Center, Sergeant Mathis. Grew up with Cops and Kids, and you know, I'll often point out to him saying, I can't measure success. I can't tell you what the stats are on the number of kids that we've helped to improve. Those numbers I don't have, but I can point at individuals and say, there's a success. And if we could have success like that with one individual at a time, then every program is worth it. Like I said, our after-school program is Monday through Friday from 1:30 to 6:30. There's about 65 children in there right now. The summer program, getting ready to kick off, we'll have around 75 kids in that program. You know, normally speaking, in other years, we do a lot of field trips and other hands-on experiences with them, trying to get them involved in learning opportunities that are out there. We'll have to try to see if JWB will approve those types of things this year with just coming out of COVID and stuff. So it's been a challenge. During COVID, I could tell you that we were feeding a lot of kids and helping out tremendously right out of the youth center. Officer Quinones was going around picking up all the meals and delivering them personally to there. And then we established a pickup site at the center. So these kids during COVID, when everybody couldn't get a meal, get there, we were making sure our kids were fed. So I was very proud and happy about that.
Fantastic.
The next one's just a organizational chart, and no changes really on that one for you. Emergency Operations Center, the police and fire, we share a building over there at the main public safety facility, and we work very closely with the fire department. They'll come in after us all the time. And, but we do work very closely with them. We have a great working relationship with the fire department, and the city ought to be very proud of what goes on in our EOC center and the collaborative work of every department. You know, they be very, very impressed. I think people would be very surprised to see what's happening inside the EOC center. And I think that's all under the direction of Chief Young, and I give him credit there as our emergency manager, and Mark, of course, city manager. But a lot of the things that come through that area there, we provide the services, continue police patrols, high water vehicles. Some of the high water rescue vehicles, you'll see our MRAP and other ones. Those are the only vehicles that you're going to be able to get through most of the town. So most of y'all probably rode just today in a little storm, and half the streets are flooded. When we try to get out there during a storm, we have 4x4 trucks, we have high water rescue vehicles and stuff, because most of these vehicles are not going to be able to endure going through the puddle. And, you know, I know there's a big push like with electric vehicles and stuff. Well, I'm not going to get an electric car out on the other side of town right now. You know, maybe when they build up the 4x4s and they're up high enough and we can get through deeper water, then you could look at bigger avenues for vehicles like that. But right now there's still a need for 4x4s and other large vehicles, search and rescue types, drones, small vessels. You know, these are all parts of our COOP plan and our EOC plans, continue operation plans. These are things that we do. Back after Irma, give the city-led initiative by the city manager and the BOC, they gave us direction. Hey, we saw these shortfalls, one of the big ones, and I asked then Sergeant Ruggiero to lay out a plan for US 19, because we're responsible for everything north on Klosterman on what happens if all the lights go down. Well, we can't have an officer out at every single intersection. During that, we recognized that during Irma, so we came up with an operational plan, and the city manager, working with the BOC, we were able to acquire funds through Ron, and there was a lot of targeted things, as well as communications and other aspects. This is just one little highlight of a whole package that helped with the EOC and preparedness for storms, and those barricades and everything. We could set up and close down all the left turn lanes of US 19, so everything is directional. And they would have to go down to areas and make U-turns instead of just everybody being a free-for-all. So we have a very good operational plan. Again, the THI trailers, special events trailers, these are all just part of preparedness and being ready. COVID-19, I think we touched on that quite a bit before. It's definitely I think you skipped one. COVID-19 definitely helped with this one here. Oh, that one's out? Okay, all right. I apologize. So the police budget prospectus for the fiscal years, over the last, since 2018, we're recognizing about a 25% increase, at roughly about a 5% increase per year. I think this year we're looking at close to 6%. That 8.3 to 9 million is more like about 8.9, I think, is right around the actual number. Those are just, submitted right there. But the majority of this year's budget, with the 6% increase, 5% of that is salaries. So the largest majority of it is all salary increases that we'll be looking at here. On the next page, you can see here there's an overall 5.8% increase, or $402,000 in personal services, and then operating expenses, another 8.6. And again, a lot of those are just finance calculations that we have not much control of: electric service, insurance, fleet maintenance, vehicle fuel, the cost of fuel, everything going up. Those are things that are happening. We do pretty much maintain almost a balanced budget compared to the last years, with operating costs and things of that nature taking a slight increase.
What about overtime as you look? And Chief Coaching gave me an education last year with overtime. We have so many functions in Tarpon Springs, and you need to have a
like
person.
last year, I can't use last year as a comparison right now. 2020, our numbers will be down. COVID stopped all special events. COVID stopped a lot of things. We did get a $112,000 grant through the state for reimbursement for overtime that was COVID related, and/or any PPE related items coming back to us. So that's done monthly. We do a submittal to the state showing them this is overtime that's related to COVID, so we'll be getting reimbursement on some of that. So 2020 numbers should be relatively down into 2021 with COVID. Moving forward, can we predict an actual number for overtime? We had a triple homicide at the beginning of the year a couple years ago. The manpower is very, very manpower intensive. One event like that could spike our numbers well beyond anything that we do. We do know that every year we're going to have Epiphany. Every year we're going to have, all these certain events in town that we do have cost needs for overtime. But I think, the city does a great job on broadcasting for those unexpected things, though. It's the line of work that police and fire in. There's going to be overtime. Some years are going to be a little more impactful than others. I think Chief Coaching probably said it the best to you there.
He kind of did. He did a good explanation, because I was new to it, and I saw that number. I thought, boy, that's a big number. But understand, he even said, some of the offset, you had to manage the beaches.
Well, yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of that, but yes.
Yeah, during spring break, we're out there. We'll have to put manpower out there because we're getting calls for service. And it's going to impact the road where they're not able to go out to the calls for service outside of the beach areas. So those are things that do come about, and, overtime is just part of the business.
Yep.
I think we probably probably just highlighted all that already too, probably skip over that one. And this one here, one of the big things for us is training. A lot of required, every 4 years, every officer is required 40 hours of mandatory retraining, and this encompasses a lot of that training there. We do the majority of our training in-house. A lot of our instructors, like Major Ruggiero, Major Trill, others, all teach at our local police academies as well. So we get top-notch in-house training at a low cost to the city. But again, it does cost money to train, and we'll have to do it on overtime and bring in our shifts in because we still have to maintain the road and then pay the officer while they're doing the training and so forth. So those are just some of the mandatory areas right there that every 4 years you're required to have those things. And some of the big ones you see up there, the mental health training, dealing with PTSD, other things of that nature, cultural diversity, firearms training, any what they call high liability issues, use of force, taser. That stuff we do in-house very, very, very often, quite more than just the mandatory training, because we feel that a well-prepared officer is a much less liability out there on the road. So go on to the next one, please. Some of the other trainings that we're going to be doing and doing that on here, one of the big ones is CIT training, crisis intervention team training. I think we have that on the next slide, along with right training, racial intelligence training and education. These are things that we've been doing for years. And while you see it around the nation, it seems to be a hot topic, issues and stuff like that. But I always tell people, come look at what we've been doing, not what we're going to do, but what we've been doing. We're not coming out and saying, hey, we need to do this training starting tomorrow. We want to expand on these other ones. We've been doing the right training for years, but now we can expand on it and do other things. But I think we've been well ahead of the curve on many of the issues, especially the social issues that are facing law enforcement today.
100% agree. But we're not going to lend you out for consulting. You just stay right here and keep.
I already had that
Keep on,
conversation
keep
about
on.
Frank with another chief down
Unless we
south.
get
He
short
called
of
me up about
income,
him.
then
Said, I need
we might-
some accreditation comments. I said, I'll lend you Frank, but don't even think you're taking them. So the city revenues for police services, we get about $74,000 for our off-duty detail work that comes back into the general fund. Another $380,400 for our SROs. It doesn't pay for everything fully. It's about 65% of the cost coverage. Another $6,000 from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. That was the part of the drug task force that I talked to you about. We have one detective assigned to the countywide task force, another one to the DEA, which is the next one down, where we do get reimbursed for their overtime as well down there at the DEA task force. I always say that those are important things because criminals don't know jurisdictional boundaries, and their problems are our problems and our problems are theirs, so we all need to work together in solving them. The code enforcement also falls under the police department. Our budget there, this is not an enterprise fund or anything, so it's the amount of revenue that's coming in is submitted, that goes into the general fund. The submitted budget for this year is right up there and is really pretty much straightforward. The federal equitable sharing, I think I pretty much briefed you on that already. Did you have that one on there? No? Okay. What's that? Oh, okay, there it is, I'm sorry. Federal equitable sharing, that's where we'll draw down out of there to fund our SWAT team, our K-9 unit, and additional patrol units outside of the general fund. We do our police website maintenance out of there as well, too. This way, it's not an impact on the general fund. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Jumping back, I think it was just a slide before, the code enforcement,
Yes.
the income seems to be up this year compared to the previous, unless I misread the slide.
The budget or the collected fines?
Actually collected fines.
Yeah, I mean, here at 20, that's all in the middle of COVID right there, and
Okay.
they suspended all COVID-related funds coming in.
Right.
And they shut that down, so.
Even bounced, against 2000.
Yeah, well, I would think that would be an offset, because those ones that were held then move forward to the next, when they reopened. So now that's why, but if you did a smoothing out, I would imagine those numbers would all come out relatively comparative.
So there's nothing,
No, there's has
in
not been
there
an
that's
increase. No,
accentuating
no,
it?
those are just calls or cases that were just held.
Okay.
It was almost to the point like, with the housing market where you couldn't do anything until after COVID's over, and then, all right, now we can bring these things forward and see what the board wants to do, the code board, that is.
Yeah, in regards to special pay and off duty assignments, what is special pay? And with the off duty assignments, how are those budgeted back in for other reimbursement from the different vendors? Where is that?
Where on the line item?
Well, I see. Well, I guess I have two questions with regard to that. First, what is special pay
Okay.
on page 48?
It's the boot allowance, clothing allowance.
Oh, yeah, those are contract negotiated items. So like the detective pay, they'll get a 5% increase for serving as a detective. Boot allowance, every officer gets $100 annually for boot reimbursement. Clothing allowance is done quarterly.
Okay.
So those are all the specialized pays and so forth that come out with
And
that.
then the off duty assignments. How is that added back into the? Where is that?
Well, those off-duty assignments, when we bill outside, I told you what, we get back roughly around $74,000. That money will go back into the general fund.
The general fund, okay. And then, so I also noticed, for the last fiscal year, there was a lot of things, there was a lot of items under maintenance that were budgeted in the last fiscal year, and this fiscal year again. Is that something that gets, that you guys all do every year? Or, like, for example, the message boards maintenance, that was budgeted last year as well. Is that every year, the same items?
Yeah, that's what the sheriff's office.
Are they,
Oh, the variable message board out front, yes, that's maintenance that will work in partnership with the fire department.
so are they mainly like annual contracts? Annual
Correct.
service contracts?
That's
They're
correct.
renewed every year?
Yes.
Okay. On the overtime, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
My concern, I'm not concerned with overtime. I think you all manage it, and Chief Coachin showed us that reams of paper last year. But it seems like we always budget that 425,000. Do we need to look at maybe budgeting more at the 450 level? Because that seems to be where we ran in FY '20, and year-to-date, April, we're on track for 453. So are we just stuck on budgeting that 425 because that's the number we've used, or?
I think that's been an overall average, but I know they do have ups and downs. I mean, if we need to, we can budget more, but I guess up to the chief if he thinks we need to budget.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could
25,000
definitely
more.
look at working on in the future. It seems like every year, we're going to come back to those. There'll be lean years, and then there's going to be fat
Right.
years, and apparently. But, working with Ron's always been easy and getting those budget
Yeah.
transfers done. It seems to be a sweet point right now. I know that before Chief Coachin came before y'all a couple years ago, and I think he did get an increase, about 2 or 3 years ago?
Correct.
To the overtime budget, because it was like 300,000, 275 to 300,000, if I remember correctly. So it did get an increase, which was more favorable that, we could work within this as best we
Yeah.
can.
And, and I know you manage it quite well. I just, if we want to be realistic based on what it's run 2 years previous.
Yeah,
we
and I
wanna-
think like the chief said, it depends, like you had the
Triple
the
homicide.
Oh, the
murder
triple
case.
homicide, yeah, a couple years
Budget
ago,
goes.
yeah.
And every
Those
year, I
those
don't know
are
if
things
you-
that are going to come about and spike
Yeah.
our numbers, and
You've always got the court mandated
I used to
overtime.
have a full head of hair before I got into admin, and, it's,
Yeah, so I've sort of gone by the average, but it's had its ups and downs. I know, like I say, if the chief thinks, we need to increase it some more, we can.
but we'll definitely, something that we could take a look at.
Back to daddy and ask him for more.
Yeah. Who would ever
We'll
ask
take it
for
from
more
somewhere
money?
else.
And there's just 3 line items here right together that are up 10%. Insurance, which I think is liability insurance, and that's kind of across the board. I think you're thinking in terms of all
Property
liability
liability
going up
insurance
10%.
under, yes.
And then the repairs and maintenance is up 10%, and we've already kind of was there anything new in that, or is it just the annual contracts increases or running
Like
that?
the watch guard videos? Yeah, we got, and I'm sure that you recall, when Chief Coach came forward, we purchased and implemented our body-worn camera
Right,
system.
okay.
So that's where that increase is coming into.
Okay. And then the operating supplies line item is up like 13%, so anything unusual in there?
Well, just again, on the operating, they have what I count about $72,000 worth of stuff that would have come under the capital based on. the
36,000 for our
capitalization
taser upgrade, because our tasers are at their end of life use. So we're going to be looking at replacing
They got
those.
the- They
and
have the
that's
laptops there for
laptops.
Right, okay, change in the capitalization
18,000,
policy.
desktops for 18,000.
Okay, and then when we were talking about the special pay up there, it's got clothing allowance per PBA contract.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that line up with, like, in the operating supplies, we have replacement uniforms, so is that two different things?
So clothing allowance for the maintenance and upkeep of the uniforms themselves. So in other words, the laundering of them.
Okay.
The replacement is just that, the annual replacement. We replace the uniforms annually because, as you can imagine, when you're out there in the heat with a
Right.
vest on and sweating, and they need to be changed.
Absolutely, okay.
Every 3 months, no matter what. Cut that back, Ron. Clean the uniforms every 3 months. No, kidding, just
Oh, I
kidding.
was writing that down.
Don't take that one seriously.
That's all I've got.
Are the cameras fully implemented?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, they're on patrol. All the patrol officers went.
You know, if I can say, I know a lot of some of their budgets might be a little bit more if it's a regular maintenance, but I know last year at this time when COVID started, we worked with departments, and the departments really came in and anything that wasn't essential, they didn't get this stuff. So I'm not sure if some of this stuff in some of your departments, especially fire and police, are stuff that, you know, maybe if they didn't need it last year, they didn't get it. So I'm not sure if some of this stuff might be carryover from last year, but I know departments did a great job
Absolutely.
of cutting back. To the tune of about 400,000 or 500,000 last year, that helped out the general fund, and I just wanted to notate that.
Yes.
Excellent.
I'd have
Any
to-
other questions?
There was also a rise in the physicals from last fiscal year. I believe if I looked at it correctly.
That'll be coming up for this year because we're doing, every 5 years, we do chest x-rays.
Oh, that makes sense.
So that is just an addition. I think it's what, $65 per person additional.
Okay, anything? Thank you.
Oh, thank
And
you all.
The advice is keep on, keep on.
And thank you all for what you do coming up on the board.
But don't
Appreciate
sell
it.
your consulting services. Just keep it to Turpin. And we have our
See, now
fire
we'll let the
chief,
fire department come
Scott
up
Young.
on
Susan, you missed. You have to ask him all the tough questions. He's president of my homeowners association.
Okay.
He might,
No, I can handle
they
it.
might knock up my yard if he asks me tough, real tough. How are you, Scott? All
Good.
yours.
Good, thanks. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. I gave you a little handout of our PowerPoint. It's not that big, not that long. Some of the stuff this last year, I just want to point out that our department has endured. I think our emergency management department that we oversee was kind of taxed this year because of COVID. We had more than just a fire department to run this year. We had a whole COVID response to keep up. We had a great team of employees working, helping us out, along with the police department, working with us side by side. A lot of decisions had to be made this year that none of us really had training for. COVID kind of hit us out of the blue, so we had to work on the fly on a lot of that stuff. At the same time, keeping the department running and running calls. Our paramedics out there in the field were thrown into a situation they've never been trained for to that extent before. Before they just go out on calls and go into the house, and now there's procedures. There are little suits and stuff they had to put on just to go in the house and take care of patients and stuff. So I commend them for their efforts this year. Right now, it seems to be, going to the wayside a little bit, hopefully, knock on some wood. But I just want to point that out that our department really worked hard this year trying to keep all that in check. We've had medics, the Pinellas County Fire Chiefs, along with the county EM, help get some of the first COVID vaccine sites up this year, working throughout the county, training medics to give vaccines. We put in about 1,200 hours of medics going down doing vaccines, sticking people's arms for months. So, and all that overtime was gonna be reimbursed by the county. So I think we're about $30,000 to $40,000 in overtime right now that we should be getting back from the county. So just wanted to point that out before we get started here. So as you can see, from the slide up there, our proposed budget's a little over $6 million. Compared to the last 5 years, we're about 0.6 over, similar to what the PD was talking about. The increase is pretty much just the salaries, increases, insurances, and things like that. Our budgeted vehicles for this upcoming year, I don't know if any of you have seen the commission meeting recently. The city signed a new lease agreement to buy a new engine in fiscal '22. This is part of the 5-year capital plan. We're approached again by Pierce about a new engine, ordering it now rather than after the fiscal year. We looked at interest rates. We're very favorable right now. I think we got it at 1.74% of interest. We also get 9.6% of the cost of the engine back from the county. That's for covering the unincorporated areas of the city. So some of the main reasons we did it was we won't incur the 3% or more annual increase that the Pierce has every year in October. We also are able to trade in our oldest engine. We're getting about $15,000 for that engine, believe it or not. Usually when we send it off to auction, we only get about $5,000, so that was a benefit to get a little bit more money. And it's a lease purchase, so we lease it for 5 years and we keep it for another 10 years. So that's how we work our engines. The first payment won't be until July or August of next year. So we ordered it now. It takes about 13 to 14 months to get it. So we also have the ladder truck lease payment. This will be our 3rd year of the 5-year lease payments on that. That also is repaid about 9.6% from the county on those payments. And then we also have a new truck, pickup truck budgeted for the upcoming year also. And then just in the box there, you can see kind of what our 5-year plan is on vehicles and engines and stuff. So after this engine, right now, we probably won't need a new engine, hopefully, unless something happens, till about 2026. And I put an estimated cost of $950,000 for that. I really couldn't tell you what that's going to be. I just saw Ron's hair stand up a little bit there. But the cost of these engines,
They used to be about 300,000, but
Yeah.
I aged myself here.
the cost of them are going up. One of the biggest costs that and as a matter of fact, right after we got the approval for the engine, the dealer called and said, I told him that we were approved, the contract was going to be signed, and he said, off the record, we have what's on the record now, but they have a massive increase that was starting about a month after because of all the metals and everything that are going up in price. So they had to do a huge increase even before their annual increase. So we slid right under that. So I don't know how much that would have been, but I think we had big cost savings there. So here's how our funding works. Pinellas County EMS contract funding. The county provides about $1.6 million and almost $1.7 million for our EMS department. This is about a little over 3% increase from last year of what they gave us. We also have a contract with them for fire. That provides about $507,000 a year. This is for us to cover the unincorporated areas of the city. I also get some specialty funding from them. They give us $10,000 a year for maintenance on our fireboat, and they give us $5,000 a year for our marine unit maintenance. That's a little Zodiac that we have out at one of the stations for shallow water rescues. So how it breaks down, you see that we get about almost $2.2 million from the county for fire and EMS. The city funds about $3.8 million, and that comes up with our $6.031 million budget. Our operating expenditures, you can see in 2020 was about $885,000. Right now, we're projecting about $821,000 this year, and we've budgeted $869,000 for 2022. So that's where we're at with that. And I take that and any questions that you might have. We also do an EM budget, but our EM budget for emergency management is about $14,000, and that's just pretty much for software updates and fuel for generators and stuff like that.
Okay, don't escape yet. Let's give it a second. throw it open to any questions down the line.
The funding we get for the unincorporated areas, do you track cost for those areas? I mean, is that like a flat amount we get every year, and do they escalate it?
That's a flat amount. I think they base that off of what percentage of the city is unincorporated.
Okay.
So I believe, I don't know how often they come back and recalculate that number. I don't know, Ron might be able to tell you if they've recalculated it any time or not.
Yeah, the budget department at the county says, you know, what your fire district area is, and it's the area that's in that district, but it's outside between the city limits and the outer
Right.
area of that district, what we're covering. They do it by the taxable values of that area outside the city that's still in that district.
Is there a way to calculate our cost for covering those areas, or is that just would be too labor intensive to track that cost?
It would
Depending on
be-
your call volume or
It
something.
would be, they come out with a spreadsheet, they send us a spreadsheet every year, and there's certain costs that they project in there. The finance department will then go back through and look at some of the costs for equipment, maintenance, things like that, and there's a percentage that goes into that, and that's how they come out with their final number, what they give us. I don't know, I haven't seen it go up or down on the 9.6 for quite a few years, so I don't know if it plans on changing anytime soon. I don't know if that goes by unincorporated areas that get, you know, moved into the city limits or not, if that'll change eventually, but hopefully not.
Any other questions?
Yeah, did you want to comment on the emergency management funds and the risk management funds?
The risk management fund is pretty much a city safety program that we've inherited probably about 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. Our portion of it is very small. What we manage is probably only about $9,000, $10,000, and that just handles the CPR training, city safety programs that we put out for the city employees. That helps keep, as long as we have a city safety program in place, Chief Walsh handles all the safety training for the city employees. As quarterly meetings, they review all the incident reports throughout the city. That helps with our workman's comp rates, to say that we have a program and we're trying to keep injuries down. Helps with our CPR training, our mannequins that we have to keep purchasing that we do for the public. All the city AED program, all the buildings in the city, we maintain and keep those AEDs up in the buildings. So all those are recurring costs every year that we have to, you know, the little pads you put on those, they expire, believe it or not. So we have to keep those up to make sure that they work. So that's what the city safety building is, program is. The emergency management program, that funding of about $14,000. That's for a lot of the software, like I said, the generators, fuels, maintenance on generators for the buildings, or EOC upgrades that we have to keep up for the EOC to operate and function. So that's what those two funds are for.
Good, good. Just one final question. What time did you say the big engine's gonna pull up in front of my house for my 4-year-old grandson that's there? Oh, okay.
Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. All right, next on the agenda, project administration.
All the badges, let all the badges get out of here.
Badges, all the badges. All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Life is good?
Okay, I'm relaxing, like you say. I'm Bob Robertson, I'm the Project Administration Department Director, and that's it. No. So just a real quick summary of the Project Administration Department. We are the de facto engineering department for the city. There's a giant staff of 3 of us. And we administer projects, we manage projects, city projects, utilities, infrastructure, you name it, we'll oversee it either through design or through construction or both. My budget is about, my annual budget is almost entirely salaries for the 3 of my staff, including me. We increased it by about 12% over last year's budget. And that's primarily because what I'm asking for this year is a 50% increase in my 3,100 fund for professional services, increasing that from 60,000 to 90,000. I have seen a need for, how do I say it? Rapid engineering response. We have consultants that are under contract with us with the city, and I manage many of those contracts, engineer record type contracts, and sometimes we need some quick analysis done. For example, city managers got an offer to purchase a property, and he's interested in it and wants to do an analysis of the wetlands, or we need to do some survey work, or we need to know if a parking lot will fit in this lot, and so we need to size it and do some preliminary sketches. This gives me the flexibility to respond to those quickly and to get those answers to the city manager or to the commissioner, whoever's asking me for them.
So these
So-
are outside consultants?
That's correct.
I mean, it's not you three, something that you have to bring some.
That's correct. Yeah, right. We've already hired those engineering firms are basically on standby for us. And we can work with a number of firms now. We've got a whole system set up for not only engineering services, but survey and geotechnical and hydrogeographical and all kinds of stuff. So that's the difference between last year and this
These are
year, and that's
real
what I do.
rush project. It's not everybody saying, I need it right away.
Right, I mean, if it's a project where we're gonna spend some time doing it, or it's a funded project, let's say, from Public Services, and they've got a utilities project that they wanna do, they wanna put a new pipeline in, it's a mile long, well, I'm not gonna use this $90,000 that you authorized me for, or the board authorizes me to use. We're gonna use a proper budget system, they're gonna have the money set aside in their CIP.
Okay.
That would include the engineering services. This is the type of stuff that I just need kind of as a tool in my tool belt to be able to be responsive. So that's really the only difference. Otherwise, it's the same budget as last year, salaries, and that's what we do.
Okay, bear with us a second. Throw it open. If anybody has any
Thank you.
questions? I'm okay, does anybody?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I win, Ron? Was that the fastest one?
No. You got
Janine-
blown off earlier.
Janina was pretty quick.
Oh, that was quick.
Thanks, guys.
And just, listen, next year when you come in, you can get the fastest award. Just say my budget's 10% below this year.
There's no question. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we are going to have culture and civics. Are we back to being able to have culture again?
Hel- Praise the Lord, yes. Oh, boy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Diane Wood. I am the director for the city's Culture and Civic Services Department. And just to give you a little bit of a perspective, under that umbrella, of course, is Carrie at the library, and also Tarpon Arts. And the Tarpon Arts section is of course, our performing arts and our museum, section. What I've given you is confidential, wonderful information, because
We're inside.
what you've got here is hot off the press. Nobody knows it. This is confidential, but this is a season that I have done 4 different times now. Rescheduled it. So I'm very excited that we're going to be bringing live entertainment back. But I also wanted to call your attention to this map, and I think I've shown it to you before. One of the things that I think I'm most proud of, those little green dots that you see there, those represent ticket sales. And so this kind of illustrates to you just how effective our department is in bringing people from not just the Tarpon Springs area, but also outside areas to the city. And we have lots of incentives for them to come and stay and partake in our, area businesses and things like that. So we have a restaurant program where they can take their ticket stub and go into our participating restaurants and show them the ticket stub, and we have an agreement with the restaurant that they'll give them like a glass of, wine or a beer or 15% off of their ticket. It's always with a purchase, so it allows, the merchants to make, some money too and discover new places in Tarpon Springs. So as you know, the performing arts industry came to a screeching halt for COVID, and it really impacted us tremendously. However, we did work with our fire department, our police department, and of course, the other departments here within the city, and our city manager to be able to do some sort of shows for the public. So what we did is we have a component of Tarpon Arts that is community theater. And this is very important to us, our community theater folks, because they are integral in allowing us to get grants and things as well. But these people are not paid. We pay the director and we have to pay royalties for the show. But a lot of these people are all volunteers that are, that work and come and spend time to put on a great show for us. So we were able to socially distance and do all of the things that were necessary to put on shows at our Heritage Museum, because that's the only place where we could safely change around when we had to do it manually, we had, depending on the tickets that were sold, we had to go in, and Chief Young gave us a PVC pole that was 6 feet long, and my employees had to go and measure the seating so that we made sure that they, were socially distanced in their seating, and everybody wore masks, and they were very compliant. But the positive response that we got was so great for us, because people were saying that they were depressed because they, couldn't go anywhere or do anything. And so we did just comedy shows and gave them a safe environment, and they were very, very happy, to be able to get out and do that. But in order to make it work financially, we would normally be doing this show at the Cultural Center, and we'd have 6 shows. Mm-hmm. So we did it at the Heritage Museum, and we did 10 shows. So there was even, more so of a commitment for our community theater folks, and so we're very grateful to them and very proud of that we were able to stay viable during a time when, everything else was shut down. So.
Any idea how many people you fit in that Heritage Center with
the Heritage Museum?
Yes.
We were only able to do 34 to 37 seats, depending on the tickets that were sold. Mm-hmm. And that's why we had to increase it to 10 shows, just so we could make sure that we covered all of our expenses. So we actually made, money from the shows, so we increased revenue, but the goodwill, I think, was the most important thing that we were so proud of. And so I'm very excited that we are able to have a new season, and of course, without being able to put on all the shows that we would normally every year, of course, we didn't have the expenses that we would normally have on a regular basis. So you will see that there are some significant increases in my budget for certain, things that we've needed. I've been pretty flat over the last couple fiscal years, and now what I've done in this time during COVID is I went through and did a 5-year strategic plan, and that included things that we need as far as maintenance, and just because we have the 4 venues. We have the Performing Arts Center downstairs, we have Cultural Center, which we're dying to open. And we've got the Heritage Museum and, of course, the Safford House. And we want to use those all to their fullest potential. But, so with the strategic plan, I also looked at operations as well as programming that we want to do. And in order to do some of this programming, we've got to increase hours for some of our part-time people, as well as, you know, maybe eventually add another part-time person. So with that being said, and I'd be happy to share the 5-year strategic plan with you all, so you can, you know, see that as well. But I felt like it was necessary to plan ahead when something like COVID comes up, and, you know, it's so unexpected. But, you know, we are doing such a great job here in Tarpon Springs with our people are coming to our, you know, to the Heritage Museum, to the Safford House, and we've got some great programs that Carrie and I are going to do together as far as, you know, partnering with the library to bring some of their programs over to the Cultural Center when we open up. And then I've also talked to the Historical Society and also our Tarpon Springs Art Association to do programs, bring their programs into the Cultural Center too, to make it a real hub of activity all the time, you know, to celebrate the arts as far as the visual arts and the performing arts, but also to have meetings there where, you know, people can see this wonderful building that is historic and absolutely gorgeous, you know. So with that, I will open it up to questions that you might have for me.
I did stick my head in on the way up. The carpeting looks pretty good.
I
downstairs.
know, I'm so excited.
What a big difference that makes.
Yes, absolutely. Fresh start.
Okay. Bear with us as we.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Please take your time.
Well, they're mulling. I see the listing. This isn't a serious question. It's just borrowing some time. A lot of tributes band, but then it says the best of the Eagles. Is that not a tribute?
It is.
I'm kidding. I know it's not. We're not going to hire the Eagles.
One of the things that we've learned over the last couple seasons is that our patrons really like the tribute bands. And so one of the things that I do is I make sure that they're good.
I was
because
just ready to
all
say there are
tribute bands are not created
and there
equal.
are tribute bands.
Exactly. So you will be sure, and if you ever come and you don't like one of those tribute bands, you let me know, because like I said, I'm pretty picky. And I will tell you also, I'm sorry to keep chattering, but
Okay.
one of the things that we're doing, of course, we always go after any grant that's out there available, and we do have a couple grants that we are going to be getting money for. We are waiting to hear about the state grant, and that usually comes in June. So I'm hoping to hear this month about, you know, what we are going to get for this fiscal year. But one of the things that I try to do is get sponsorships. I'm a big believer in sponsorships, and I just got $12,400 from Advent Health yesterday.
Oh, nice.
To go towards our new season, and I'm working with some other, you know, companies as well. So I like to try to supplement, you know, our budget with those kind of sponsorships, because it gives me a really good feeling and lets me sleep at night. Because you never can predict how many tickets you're going to sell, but I believe this is going to be such a strong season for us, and I told Ron I think he'll be happy. So.
Do you mind if I ask you some
Please.
different questions? So on page 113 under the arts, it has just a couple little things. It has miscellaneous repairs under repairs and maintenance. What are those miscellaneous repairs? Maybe if it can be, you know, so we know what the $1,106 is budgeted for. And then also, I was confused because I saw that there was an elevator insurance, maybe this is a question for Ron also. There was an elevator insurance under other, trying to find it, where it was.
We do have an elevator at the Cultural Center.
Sorry, I apologize. I just thought I was just,
no.
Under point 34, maybe elevator
I was just
alarm
confused why it
monitoring?
was under, yeah, why the insurance was under, other, contract and not under insurance.
That's a new one to me, so I'm not sure if you all, is that really an insurance-related item, is it?
It's a good question.
That was one, and then also with the miscellaneous repairs, maybe it would be nice to include what they are. And then under,
Could we note those? And could you fire those back through Michelle, those answers? Those are gonna be 2 homework
Yeah, sure.
questions.
And this is Marissa. She's my department administrator, and she does, pay all the bills for us. So she will definitely get those answers for you.
and then under the Heritage Center, I apologize, I don't.
No, you're fine.
Under the Heritage Center, let me go back over there. Just something, I was looking back at last fiscal year, and maybe it was something new, but I saw that there's something. I apologize. It was something in, so let me go back to, help if I find the right page, right?
Well, that's the other thing that's so lovely is that I have so many different account numbers.
You do?
So you're doing fine.
Train Depot? While we're jumping around, let me ask you about the staff.
Yes, sir.
Stafford House. Tom Funchen said we did a lot of fix-ups of it. It's looking pretty
The
good.
Safford House?
Yes.
Yes, it's beautiful. It looks so fantastic. In fact, we had an event there just recently on May 1st. We actually did like a tea and had it was kind of like a garden club kind of thing. We actually used the garden club. They came and sold plants there and everything, but we had a talk, and we had an actor that she portrayed Dr. Mary Jane Safford, and so it was a talk for the people, and it was really fun, and everyone was amazed how beautiful it was. They've done a great job. Please come over and see it, and I'd be happy to show you around.
There was a little older question. There was a group last year that, that spot down open area where they wanted to move it there. I assume we're going to leave it where it is, and because we made all these repairs.
That's not up to me, unfortunately.
Okay.
But if you asked me my opinion, I would say, let's leave it where it is.
Okay.
So, I apologize. So, yeah, under the operating expenses in, on the Heritage Center on page 120, it looked like there was a big increase from the past to this year.
Under operating expenses?
Yes.
Yes, there's a lot of things that we wanted to do. We have a lot of desks and office, kind of areas that are they're kind of falling apart. And so they're in disrepair, and they kind of need to be replaced. Also exhibits. One of our goals is to do a brand-new exhibit every year. We can recycle them, but right now we have the Golden Crescent in there. We also have an Epiphany new exhibit, and people are really liking, the exhibits. And we didn't really have a budget item for that, so we actually, put it under operating expenses, to try to do a new one every year. So that's why it's a little bit more than usual.
Yeah, and I also found my question about the carpet cleaning. last year, it looks like it was 390, and this year it increased up to $899. Was there something different that was done last year to this year in regard to that? The carpet cleaning?
It was requoted? Okay. We have not done it, by the way, but it was a lot more than it normally would be. And please go ahead and if there's anything you want to add. The other thing that happened, too, is that when the Heritage Museum was tented for the termites, unfortunately, we lost a lot of our landscaping, and so we're, slowly trying to go ahead and replace that too with some of our own funding. And so I think we actually put some money in there too to go ahead and replace that. We have worked with the other departments to get, some really good pricing on plants and everything, and they've got an excellent plan that's going to be beautiful. We're also talking to one of our patrons who I believe is going to fund an exhibit for us just right outside on the north side as you come out of the Heritage Museum. And we're going to put native plants in there and let people walk through and have, some information about native plants as part of an exhibit. So,
It's a nice idea, good idea.
thank you.
As we're digging through them, how do you gauge for yourself how the department does?
We, this one, and of course Carrie at the library, keep me informed on expenses and everything. And I'll be honest with you, I'm the spendthrift, and they keep me grounded. It's like, no, we can't do that. It's like, all right, well, if I sell this many more tickets and get this much more revenue, or I get a new sponsor, can I buy it? And they're like, yes, then you can buy it. So I kind of gauge our success because we have a very small staff, but we're all very engaged, and so we're all with the patrons all the time, and at the shows and things like that. So we practically live here, but we're very proud of what we do. And so we talk to, our visitors a lot. In fact, the Heritage Museum, because I moved the ticket sales office there, has become kind of a welcome center. And so my employees do double duty as, kind of like, not taking the place of the chamber, but, answering a lot of questions for visitors. And I've been working a little bit more on trying to get more publicity, into so that we get more recognition, and so I kind of gauge it based on our revenue, but also the feedback that we get from people. And I'm proud of when we can get to the point where, we're really bringing in a lot of revenue, but we're also getting the accolades and feedback from our patrons as well as the Tarpon residents that they really like what we're doing. And so we kind of ask them that on a regular basis.
I think they're gonna like this.
Thank you.
When does this get released?
Well, we're going to do it early this year because it's normally in August, but we are going to actually be releasing it in July this year. So I'm going to do something a little bit different, which is experimental, but I'm going to do show sponsorships. And so that allows our patrons for either to give me $1,000 or $2,000 and sponsor any of those shows, and they get different things for that. Like, for instance, if you gave me $2,000 for one of the shows, you get 10 seats in the front row. And all this, and then we get recognition from the, all kinds of recognition in the lobby and yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to try that for 2 weeks, and then it goes on sale to the members for a week, and then it goes on sale to the public. So right now we're working to put our brochure to the printer And I also have some very good news, is that I lost my number 2 person on the Tarpon Arts side, but I was able to hire someone who I think is going to help us take it to a whole new level, and that is I stole somebody from Ruth Eckerd Hall. So he is starting on the 24th of June, and he's really excited, and I'm excited to have him, and I think he's going to be a great asset for the city.
Okay, throw it open to any,
I have more just an operations question for you on the plays that you all do. Who decides who's doing the plays? And are the directors volunteers that come forward? And
That's a great question. Actually, we have a lot of, there is a kind of a local group that's in the Tampa Bay area, and they have a lot of local actors and everything, but also directors as well. And then Marissa, she is our theater liaison too, so she works with them, and we find the best. And they have learned that we are good to work with, and we're organized, and so they come to us. In fact, we have a list now. We can't use them all, but we said, you know, when the next season, because we're always booking a year ahead.
Right.
So this season is now done. Now we're going to be looking at 22, 23. And also, we kind of listen to our patrons, too. They like mysteries, anything with Sherlock Holmes or drama of any kind. They love that, and they love comedies. So it's going to be feel-good kind of thing. And so I invite you all to come. Also, our last one at the Heritage Museum is Steel Magnolias, and that opens this weekend. And it's going to be a great show, too.
I attended Almost Maine, I think it was. The Heritage, yeah, I noticed a lot of the actors were from outside the area, so I was just curious as to how they come about coming to Tarpon.
And a lot of them, you know, hear about us, too. I'm really excited that, and you're going to have to get your ticket early for your,
get early.
we're going to do Beauty and the Beast. So can you imagine all those little girls coming down, you know, in their belle dresses? It's going to be awesome. So, yeah.
My
so-
favorite is the one-act plays. I like that.
Yes.
I like those too.
Yes, and so we're really excited to finally bring those back too, you know, and I'm glad we're able to do that in the, that's actually going to be in the fall, so you won't have to wait too long.
And one thing I haven't seen here that I would like to see is maybe an outdoor play in Craig Park.
Yes, yes.
We'll put that on the agenda.
Yeah, that would be
Midsummer
good.
Night's Dream would do very well out there.
You know, I've been trying to get our Shakespeare Dee O'Brien. In fact, I've got her, we're going to be doing Shakespeare in the Dark
Okay.
in the Cultural Center
Okay.
with candles, and it's going to be awesome. But, you know, that's one of the things that I would like to do more of is some outdoor, you know, kind of entertainment, like especially at the Safford House too, because you can't put a whole lot of seating there. It would be great to do like a classical, you know, quartet, you know, do some classical music one night, do a little jazz, you know, quartet at another time.
And if you're going to have that, how do you advertise it?
Oh,
I mean, how do people get to know? I know the little newspaper, is that a good source? Or?
well, the Beacon is one source. The Tampa Bay Times has been our primary source, and that's where our budget, you know, our advertising budget gets really kind of high, even though we have the most amazing rates with the Tampa Bay Times for the city. I was really impressed because I thought that the Straz Center, when I was there, that we had the best rates. No, city does. It's really, in fact, I can't even believe it. But, so anyway, the problem is that they're expensive. And until I get back to these other shows, I can't afford to advertise in there. So you're going to see us go back to the Tampa Bay Times, and you'll see Ruth Eckerd and Mahaffey and Straz and everybody, because that's what we've all been waiting for, is being able to be at 100%, because we just can't make the numbers work, kind of thing. And that's, we get a lot of people from Tampa Bay Times. And the Beacon is a nice, complement to it, but we do a lot with social media too. And then that's a lot more cost effective. And then our brochure, is very important to get that out there. Is there anything else I can answer for you?
Exciting.
Thank you very much. And I will let Carrie come up and give you the other side of cultural. Just as important.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I'll just start with a quick overview of my budget, and then obviously anytime interrupt me if you have any questions. For the general fund budget, the one that starts on 106, there's very little change from last year. You can see most of the items have gone down or stayed the same. I would like to just mention the one that looks like it went up quite a bit, but actually that's not really accurate. The travel before 2020 had been like around 4,000, 3,000, things like that. But then obviously with the pandemic and all of our conferences getting canceled and all the training opportunities, no one was going anywhere. So we pretty much had like zero travel budget for the last year and this year now. So we are getting back up a little bit. We're up to 1,525, but like I said, that's down from like 4,000. So if you had a question about why that one went up. The rest of them are, like I said, pretty standard. One thing I do like to point out, the library's budget is a little different than some of the other divisions and departments because we get the cost of all the different departments that we deal with added to our budget. That's because the library gets money from the county, the Pinellas Public Library Cooperative gets money from unincorporated counties so that people who live outside the Tarpon Springs area can come use our library for free. And we get money for that, and it's based on how much money your city is. Well, there's a minimum amount and a maximum amount, but then it's pretty much based on how much money your city's spending on you. So we do like to show that it's not just the library budget. We have, because you'll see in here, we have interdepartmental allocations for finance and IT and HR and public works and parks and parkways and all this stuff. So we have parts of their budget included in ours so that when we're compared with the county, they can see the true cost of what it is to run the library, because we obviously have to use all those different departments to be able to do our business. But that does help us because every year we do get money from the co-op. It does vary from year to year depending on, we get measured up on how much our city spends on us versus what the other cities are spending on them. I tried to look at an average of like the last 5 years. I'll say it's about like 240,000 that we get. It used to be a separate fund, but Ron will attest that a few years back we just rolled it in. So now it just comes as revenue to the city. It's not particularly identified in a budget because it's just revenue that the city is getting, and it helps support our budget, but you don't see it directly in there. And then a couple things too at the end of our budget. It looks like we're fully staffed, and I wish we were, but we did have a couple changes in May. We had our part-time custodian for over 20 years. He retired, and then we had another one of our library staff members move out of state. So we currently have one part-time custodian position vacant and a part-time library assistant position vacant, but we are looking to get those filled.
And budget-wise, they're in the
They're in the budget, yeah, they're showing with people here, but like I said, it's just been in the past few weeks that we've had some vacancies, so I'm just mentioning it to you now. And then, in addition to our general fund account, we have a library memorial fund. This is, I always refer to it as our donations account. This is primarily supported by our friends at the library. They're our biggest donor, and we pretty much do our budget based on what their projected contribution is going to be. They give us an annual contribution. And when I was doing the budget in 2020, things weren't going so great with their investments. So we did a very conservative 20,000. This year, things are going much better. So they said, we feel comfortable telling you can put 40,000 in the budget. So I jumped right on that. And so we do have 40,000 there this year. That's why it is, because it's based on their investments and what they project. Also, they operate a used bookstore in the library, and all of the proceeds from that go directly to the library. We get that at the end of the year to help support us. So that works out very well for us. And then the exciting thing is it's not in this part of the budget, but we are going to be applying for a construction grant from the state of Florida Division of Library Information Services. They make these grants available to all the libraries, in all the public libraries in Florida. You can apply for up to $500,000 in matching funds. So like if we want to get the full $500,000, we'd have to we'd have to have a budget of $1 million project, and we'd pay half in the city, it'd pay half. But I'm glad Ron is here because he has the up-to-date numbers. But this, when we apply for this, and it's going before the commission next week to get approval to submit the application, we do already have money in the budget that will support our matching funds. We have impact fees that we haven't done anything with for quite a while, and so it's been growing and growing. And then we also have donations that last year when we shut down for COVID, we did not do a lot, so we've had some money building up in there, and we've also been fortunate to have several patrons who have passed on and remembered us in their will. We had one gentleman leave us over $50,000, and so we have some money in our donations and our impact funds that would help us provide matching funds if we were able to get this from the state. I say if because it all depends on if the Florida legislature decides to fund most of the grants, and then there have been years, even if the legislature decides to fund it, the governor at the end can decide to veto it and take the funding out. So it's by no means guaranteed, but obviously if there's a grant opportunity, we want to apply for it and try and get it, and so we are going to try and do that. Because some background for the library, in case you're not aware, we've been at our current location at Lemon Street for almost 25 years. We're looking forward, next year we're going to celebrate our 25th anniversary at that building, and we really haven't done that much in the past 25 years. I mean, we've done some minor enhancements and maintenance and things like that, but over the past 25 years, as you might imagine, the way people have used the library has changed a lot. The print books aren't circulating like they used to. A lot more demand for digital items and technology and maker spaces, interactive areas. People have said repeatedly they'd like to have more study rooms and meeting rooms. So this is what we hope to get the grant to be able to do. But if it works out, it would be really nice because that will be our 25th anniversary. And then we're also seeing if we might also get some additional donations in support of that, but that is kind of what we're working on now. And we do have a survey out, which if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go to Connect Tarpon Springs and take it because we want to get as much input as we can from the public. We've gotten, I think around 250 responses so far, but we really want to get as many as possible. We want to really find out what does the community want.
And
what
where's the survey?
It's on Connect Tarpon Springs. The city online engagement tool, or we also have the old-fashioned version for people who don't do digital. We have a paper copy in the library, so as people come in, we say, please take a paper copy, fill it out, and actually, I can tell you our responses, we're getting way more paper copies than we are digital, because a lot of our patrons, prefer that. But we're trying to get as much input as we can because we want to see going forward how best we can serve the community. And if we get a grant, and if not, if we're whatever we're able to do to remodel the library, enhance the library, we want to do that with as much community input as possible to see what we can do. Because we have noticed we closed down for a couple months for COVID. When we opened up June 1st of last year, we have noticed our traffic is quite down. And now that we're getting a little bit more back to normal, we're starting to see more of it come back. And we're really excited. June 14th, the Monday after school gets out, we're kicking off our summer reading program. We're starting our evening hours, so now we'll be open until 8 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're hoping that's going to help to bring some people back. And we're going to do we're pretty much going to do a mostly virtual summer. Most of the libraries in the county are still doing a lot of online programs. When with the pandemic, we had to switch to everything, our story times virtual, art lessons virtual, all these things. But we are going to have some in-person programs over the summer, some for adults and teens. We have escape rooms at the library, and then we're looking at doing some things for the younger kids at Craig Park and outdoor story time and things like that. So since Diane was plugging her programs, I want to make sure and mention that to you too. And please, we encourage you and anyone you know to do the survey, because we really hope to get a huge community response so we get a real accurate reflection of what the people would like to see.
I commit.
Fantastic.
And I'll do it online, I won't.
Well, anyway, that's my overview. Please let me know. I'm happy to go through the budget or answer any questions about anything I've
Do we have
said.
any questions?
No questions. And I took the survey.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're okay. Okay, now we're all challenged to take this. Step back. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Okay.
Good. Okay, we're at that point. I assume there's no public comments because there's no public here. But anybody comments, staff comments?
No.
So how are you feeling about the budget? Feeling good?
I'm feeling better if we have, the property tax values increasing and a couple positive things with the health insurance. If it hopefully comes in at no increase, that's a big help for the general fund.
Those are too nice.
Yeah.
Could I ask? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
How you feeling year to date? I know you came out with the fourth or everything. Any
Well, I sent out a
surprises?
financial update the other day.
The other day, yeah.
And everything, the only thing is still, as probably Diane was saying, negative revenues has basically still been, recreation fees,
People are just
ticket
starting
sales.
to come out of the shell.
but it's still, the only ones that gas tax revenues are still down, obviously, maybe not as many people traveling as, but I did see saw some good news, last receipts on the penny tax. It was the highest, the penny gas tax, from the local option sales tax, we call it the penny.
Right.
We received that receipt just last Friday, and it was one of the highest ones I've seen.
For what month was it? Was it monthly that you get that?
Yeah, it was 370,000. I just,
Well, people are out spending more, so that's
and
gonna go up.
the gas tax was
Yeah.
up too,
I think
to
you'll
really
see
what it
both
was
of
2
those
years
going
ago.
up.
So I'm hoping maybe the gas tax monies will start coming back in, because also the gas tax ones would have been down.
I traveled over Memorial Day. You're gonna see it go up there. It flooded with people.
There's another tax that's called the half-cent sales tax. We got that receipt Tuesday, and it was 185,000. Usually it's around 140. I even had staff check. I said, "Is that right?"
Well, I think you'll probably see a spike in all of those over the next few months because everybody's been pinned up and now they're getting out, and then it'll probably level back out.
And that's what I'm curious about, to see, okay, is this just a little blip here, or is it?
Get a little spurt
You're
here.
gonna
and
have a
then it'll
couple
get
months
back.
spike, and then it'll level back to
Yes.
where you anticipate it should be.
Yeah, I don't want to get too, excited here and stuff, being conservative and stuff, but it was nice to see those three increasing so much and stuff. I'd like to say, I'm curious if it'll continue, and
So I liked when Diane said, the only plays that they've run were comedies. Well, we didn't need anything dark during the
Right?
pandemic. Just coming out. Good choice, after meant to comment.
the only thing still has been, I guess, in the negative, is the interest returns, interest earnings has
That-
it's been, it's,
It's okay. There's some of us who like the investment side, it's stocks. So
Yeah,
let's keep
that's
these.
true.
Fed, let's keep these reserved, even though I know you only get small returns.
Us in the private sector world are enjoying
Private
the
sector
market
world kind of likes
returns.
the small interest rate. Sorry,
it's okay.
you get your 0.5%, and that's it, and that's it. Okay, so our next meeting, or we have one more meeting, correct?
Correct, next Thursday at
Next
2:00.
Thursday.
It'll be
Eh.
the city clerk, public services, Paul Smith and all his departments, and
Yep.
then I guess we'll do finance and go over the finance department.
Unless we just want to cut 10%. I gave you that option. 10% from now, you'll get your minute in the sun. So with that said, any other comments, or are we concluded? So, we're concluded, 3:34 in the afternoon, adjournment. Thank you. Do I get to tap this? It kind of, I get this little, it gives